This is probably one of the most wholesome platformers I've ever played. Skim is a 3D platformer where you play as a shadow separated from your person. In this video, we'll be giving a full review of the game, ranking it from decaf to fully caffeinated. This is something we do regularly here at the Indie Brew, so make sure to subscribe to the channel for more indie game content. Without further ado, let's grind this game down and see how it brews. The story of this game is so simple, yet so wholesome. You begin the game attached to your person who, at the time, is a child. You'll follow your person throughout their whole childhood right up until early adulthood before you get separated. And the rest of the game follows you as you attempt to find your person again and become whole. The story is pretty cleverly told in this game. There's no narration, dialogue, or text at all. Instead, the story is told using an incredible soundtrack and elements within the scenes themselves. The result of this is largely a story that is open for interpretation. You can certainly create some elaborate backstories in your mind for some of the more prominent recurring characters, or simply play through the levels without becoming emotionally attached. It really is up to you. I really enjoyed this style of storytelling. I think it's open enough to allow each player to draw their own meanings, yet linear enough that it pushes the gameplay and explains the level progression. So for story, I'm rating Skim as fully caffeinated. Skim is technically a 3D platformer, but it definitely doesn't feel like one. The main gameplay sees you jump from shadow to shadow as a cute little shadow blob. Each level requires you to maneuver your way from one shadow to another until you reach the goal shadow of the level. Now, as you'd expect in a platformer game, the levels get increasingly difficult as you progress, adding in some new challenges. You'll have to navigate jumping into moving shadows, and you can interact with certain objects through like traffic lights to make them change, or boom gates to make them raise or lower. You can also interact with people, in a way, by pressing the interact button when in their shadow, with varying results. I particularly loved how the game uses light as a mechanic, with nighttime levels incorporating directional light sources and sources that move, which really create a different challenge. I'm not typically a fan of platformer games, mostly because I suck at them, but I found Skim's gameplay to be a good mix of difficult but achievable. Framing the platformer elements as shadows completely changes your perspective of those elements, and it actually gave me a new appreciation for the core platformer mechanics. So for gameplay, I'm rating Skim as fully caffeinated. In terms of design, Skim is definitely a game that stands out. Visually, the game takes a very simple color approach, utilizing only black, white, and bold colors plus shading, which gives the game a really cool visual effect. The silhouette style makes it easier in some ways to navigate the levels, but there's still plenty of personality in the design of all of the elements. The soundscape of the game really sets the scene, providing a relatively chill soundtrack to jump shadows, and the addition of the sound effects, particularly when you interact with different items, really brought the game to life. This is a game that knocks it out of the park in terms of design, so for design, I'm rating Skim as fully caffeinated. I don't think I've ever seen a game tackle platformer mechanics like Skim does. Even looking at the game, it can be hard to tell it's actually a platformer, and it really is such a unique take on this genre. This, combined with a really unique and captivating visual style, really creates a game that is completely unlike anything I've seen. There's definitely a lot of innovation in how they've adapted different mechanics, and including things like the lighting effects and different moving objects and different things you can interact with really makes this game stand out mechanically as well as visually. So for originality, Skim has to be fully caffeinated. It's not often you come across a game in a genre you don't typically like that you love, let alone a game that you can hardly even recognize as a platformer in the first place. Skim really provides a fun and engaging gameplay experience in a really unique way, and it's probably one of the only platformers I haven't rage quit. We've ground the beans, we've carefully weighed and pressed the grinds, and brewed this game down. Now, it's time for a taste test. Skim is fully caffeinated. Skim is available on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation, and Steam right now. You can find the link in the description below. And that's where we're going to wrap up this review video. If you're looking for more indie game recommendations, click here. And until next time, stay caffeinated.